Well, and welcome. This is the very first episode of the Mac and D podcast. My name's Matthew Mack, and I'm
And I'm
joined today.
James Jimmy D.
Yes, sir. This is the very first episode, so bear with us with the technical difficulties and such. I literally bought my podcast set yesterday, so this is like a passion project for us. We've been talking about doing this for months, and we're finally getting it set up right in time for football season. Basically, the idea of the podcast is we're going to be going over football whenever football's in season, basketball when basketball's in season. We'll mix in some baseball takes when we can, and then just like our general expertises as well. So we met through MBA school actually at Washington University in St. Louis. So every once in a while we'll throw out some finance bro takes, just kind of get through them. And if that's in your wheelhouse, maybe we can talk about it some more. So we have jerseys on today. If you're watching the actual video, not just the audio. Who are you wearing today, James?
Yeah, I'm rocking my Patriots alternate Tom Brady jersey. So, same jersey he was rocking when he threw 6 touchdowns in one half against the Titans. It's probably my favorite Patriots uniform. Sad Tom's gone, but he's always in my heart. So go Pats and go Tom.
Rest in peace. Yeah, that was.
Who are you rocking there, bud?
Yeah, I'm wearing the Calvin Johnson Megatron jersey from like the mid 2000s. This thing is old too. And I kind of have a weird story with how I got it. I got it from this guy in Canada. He was posting on Twitter that he was getting rid of some old jerseys in his closet because he was moving. And I messaged him in the DMs. I was like, I'd love the Megatron one. And he asked me for my address and then also asked for like my Venmo. But I'd been like locked out of my Venmo for a while. And so I never was able to give him my Venmo, but I gave him my address, which is super weird, giving your like physical address to a random stranger on the internet. But he ended up sending me the jersey. Like it came in months later. He wanted to Venmo me just for like the shipping costs, which is like completely reasonable. Like this is a nice jersey. It probably cost him like $120 or whatever. And so he ended up just eating the cost. We never talked again. The DMs are just open. I left him on red. So I got a nice Calvin Johnson jersey out of it. Shout out this random journalist in Canada. So it's one of my favorites.
Yeah, dude. You gotta love that Canadian politeness, man.
Yeah,
It's just the best.
It's too bad the Lions just make everyone retire early. So
Yeah, something along those lines. So before we get underway here, I'm curious, what do you think is going to be your strong suit and your takes, and what's going to be your weakest point?
yeah, I feel like my biases definitely are really anchored. I love college football. I'm trying to get even more into it this year. So like if a guy's really good in college, I'm gonna like stick to that for the longest time. Also, like even like recruiting rankings in high school. Like Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields, like I still love Justin Fields, even though like he was very up and down last year, even too with T Law. Like I'm gonna be anchored to that forever. So like really expect me to be like, oh, this guy's got potential. I love the stock. Like these random 24/7 rankings that came out in 2015, like that is very much so in my brain at all times. Takes wise though, they're going to be spicy. They're going to be analytical a lot of times. They're also just going to be based off of gut reactions too. And I'm going to be trying not to be a prisoner of the moment kind of analyst. I hate people that are just like, oh, hey, the Raiders won week 1 against the Ravens last year. They're going to be in the Super Bowl the rest of the year. Like, it's just like, it's ridiculous. Like we cannot stay that anchored to what's happening in the moment. So I try to be forward looking, but also looking at some like actual data behind it. So how about you, James? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I'd love to hear that. I would say, I like having the analytics behind it, but when it comes to it, I'm sure there are far more intelligent people out there analyzing it. So probably going to be a lot more art than science behind a lot of my takes, just trying to go about it and what, the ways I see fit, and then trying to sprinkle in any bit of data that can actually kind of help my point. So hopefully you can slay me with data that then immediately just counteracts anything I'm trying to say. So really excited about that. Huge NFL, I've been following it for, I think, the past 10 years very, very closely. Pretty much any other sport, I would say I'm pretty weak in. So I'm excited to get this opportunity to actually dive deeper into NBA and MLB. So that would definitely be my weaker side of it. But yeah, just overall very excited to get this thing going.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, my friends get mad at me all the time for throwing out the VORPs and the GLORPs and the PERs and all that kind of stuff. So we'll try and keep it a little bit more surface level than that. But hey, we might even get into like some soccer or something too. Like World Cup's coming. I'm in Houston right now. You're in Missouri. World Cup's coming to both states. So like, why not? Like, let's just go into all the sports at this point.
I mean, that one I would have to rely on on stats because I don't know shit about soccer, so it would just be tough.
Yeah, they're doing some Moneyball stuff in soccer right now, so they're really making it analytical. So we kind of want to like jump into just some like league news that's been happening. There's some wild breaking stuff in just like literally the last couple hours of us recording this. We're recording on Sunday around 7 p.m. So recently there was a big deal that came out with Debo Samuel. He just got a brand new deal from the San Francisco 49ers. It's roughly 3 years, 73.5 million for the max. It's base 3 years, 71 million roughly. But if I remember correctly, that puts him above DK. That puts him above Terry McLaurin, all these other wide receivers that have been getting these 3 year deals. What do you think about that, James? Do you think he's the top of all those guys in that age range?
I mean, first initial reaction to this is just kudos to a human being that's what 24 years old, just getting $58 million guaranteed. Just love to see that happen. As far as yeah, give him a round of applause there. But as far as this tier, um, if last year's any indication, yeah, absolutely, Debo all the way. I think what we needed to see though is maybe 2 or 3 years of sustained success there, because obviously DK that not freshman, that rookie year, it was unbelievable, but then it kind of tapered off a little bit. Debo, we love the rushing upside, but now that he's really been kind of pushing the point across that he wants to be purely a receiver and not getting put into that running back position, does that change how San Francisco uses him? Obviously, a little bit if he's not getting 10 touches a game, but then does that change how fans look at him if he's not running in between the tackles? Regardless, the dude deserves the money. I mean, one of the best young wide receivers out there. It's really exciting he's a very exciting player to watch play. So,
Yeah.
like I say, just love to see the guy get his money.
Yeah, it's wild because like we're right in that age range and we're not making anywhere near that amount of money. So as much as we'll make fun of or criticize some of these players, like they're doing way better than us at the end of the day. But
Yeah, they're killing it compared to what we're doing.
yeah, I love Debo. I really question like how the Niners just like use a lot of their schemes because like it feels like with the Niners, like you could literally plug me or you into their scheme and we'll get 1,000 yards by the end of the season. So like it doesn't even really feel like you need like that much talent, and so it's a kind of an interesting thing on the front office side to like be devoting this much money to, especially to a guy that like seemingly in the earlier in the offseason didn't even want to be there. Like he was ready to walk out, not show up for training camp, wanted that trade and such. So it's really interesting to me that they're like, okay, this is our guy, we're gonna go in, but he is so talented. Like
Yeah.
the
Well, I think to that point though too, there's a good element of it. It's like how much is he just playing the like, look, I want my money, so let's say the right things publicly to either get me out of here to someone that's going to pay me, or let's get Lynch moving here and get him to pay me. So,
Mhm.
I think part of that is it is what it is. I think regardless, he was always going to play this season. But to your point, yeah, I think it was interesting because there was a period of time where I think every fan, except for 49ers fans, was excited at the potential of Debo playing for him, this
Yeah.
coming season.
Yeah. And it seems like the future of the NFL is multi-positional. If you can be in more than one position at a time, I look at Taysom Hill. He's 30 years old and he's pretty average in my opinion, but he's sticking around because he can do a lot of different things pretty okay. So I don't
Yeah,
know. We'll
we'll
see
see
how
if
it
he
holds up.
sticks around post Sean Payton, though. I mean, Sean Payton seemed to absolutely love that was Sean's guy. I don't know if he sticks around, post Payton.
Yeah. He's one of the
But
best.
one point before we move on from Debo, do you think Trey Lance will have a difference in how Debo plays this year? Because Jimmy G was just whenever there was an opportunity, Jimmy was dumping an accurate 2 yard pass to Debo and just watching the guy fly down the field. Is that the way Trey's going to play? We're not sure, so there's a lot of mystery there.
Yeah, Jimmy G's one of the Kirk Cousins, Sam Bradford All Stars. He's going to hit that 77% completion, but yeah, it's going 1 yard maybe past the line of scrimmage. I think Trey Lance will definitely air it out a little bit more. I think the improvising that Trey Lance brings, that's one of my takes later on, so I don't want to spoil too much. But I'm a believer in Trey Lance, and so I think he'll be really, really, really good for Debo. So that's my shortened take there.
Okay, great. Was there a point that I just cut you off from? Or are you good to move on?
No, we're good. Let's move on to the next
Okay,
thing in the
perfect.
news. So
All right.
the next thing that came out very recently, like literally an hour ago, is that the Sean Watson case is getting an update. Finally, I think everybody wants this thing to actually have some sort of reconciliation, some sort of ending to it. If you're not in the news, there's been a huge criminal and then switched over to civil case against Deshaun Watson. Cases of sexual assault brought by 30 plus women at this point. So but it seems like tomorrow morning, Monday, 9 a.m., we're finally going to get some level of conclusion on what exactly the NFL is going to do. A lot of like the out of court or in court stuff has been already been decided. They're finishing up a lot of those settlements, but the NFL is going to actually have their level of punishment as the employer. That's completely within their realms to be able to do so. And it seems like there's a lot of there's not much consensus going on between like how much he's actually going to get in terms of suspension. Is it going to be 8 games? Is it going to be 10 games? Is it going to be the full 17 games? 17 still sounds weird to say. I'm still used to 16 games. And so it's a lot of debate. What's your thought there, James? Just based off like previous suspensions that we've seen, what do you think the Deshaun Watson suspension looks like? And do you think he'll sue the NFL afterwards?
Yeah, so I think what ends up happening is probably something along the lines of either a 1 year or an indefinite suspension with immediate lawsuit that gets it dropped to probably 8 or even 6 games. I think the precedent there would be the Zeke suspension, what, 2 or 3 years ago, that was kind of in the same realm, not to nearly the same extent, obviously, as Deshaun's. But
Yeah, when
yeah,
Zeke
just
disappeared to
yeah,
Cabo for a few weeks.
yeah, exactly. So I could see. This is one of those ones not to put too many opinions into everything, but you would hate to see the guy even play this year just because it's just such extreme what's going on there. But wouldn't be surprised if it was 6 games. Once it's all said and done, I think maybe it comes off pretty harsh at first, and then it becomes, like you said, through some lawsuits or some appeals, it'll get dropped down with some other player suspensions kind of being used as the case study there. But what are you thinking for that?
Yeah, it seems like for a while, and like it seems like the NFL's still doing it with like the Ray Rice case. They seem to like flow out a number, and then they ended up changing it based off like what public perception, public opinion ended up being. So it sounded like for a while it was like that 8 game mark, and then a lot of people were like, "What the hell? What are we doing here? Like we really need to make a statement." Here we are in 2022, and like these are still the kind of like slap on the wrist that we're doing. And so it seemed like it was going up to that 16 game or the indefinite suspension that you were mentioning. It also seems like whatever ends up happening, there's going to be some level of appeal where Deshaun's going to be trying to get back some more games. But I don't think, honestly, Deshaun Watson cares all that much because, like, I don't know if you've seen the structure of his contract, but he's only getting $1 million this year, and then he's getting the remainder, like 249, 259, whatever it is, on the back end for the future years. So he'll only lose 1 million even if he doesn't play this year. Like he doesn't care. The Browns really care because they just invested a ton into this guy. They have a roster that's ready to win right now, and they have terrible options behind them. Just trade away Baker. They have your boy, why is it?
Yeah, Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jacoby Brissett, right in the backup. But like, do you really want him playing for you in 2022? I don't know. So I think there's a lot of different forces going on. I think it'll end up being right at that 6 or 8 game once we get through all the appeals and such by Deshaun Watson and his team.
All right, sounds like we're on the same page there.
Yeah.
So just because I absolutely hate talking about the Deshaun case, let's just go ahead and move on there.
Bad.
Brian Jensen, massive knee injury. What, first day camp, second day camp?
Mm-hmm.
Um, this is huge, but I'm curious maybe what your initial take is on that.
Yeah, it's interesting because like it's a center, right? Like how valuable is a center truly to a team? It's interesting because like within offensive lines, they say that like left tackle is most valuable. If you're a southpaw, maybe it's your right tackle. And then like if you're a center, you're more so on that communication, right? Like you have to be on the same page as your quarterback. So Jensen's definitely like one of the best from what I've gathered. I'm not an offensive line scout by any means. Like I know who's good. I look at Madden ratings. I know that kind of stuff. But it seems like Ryan Jensen is truly one of the best. So I feel like it is going to be a bit of a thing for the Bucks. I also feel like just in general, like we'll probably get into like our team rankings later on in a future pod, but I just feel like the Bucks are getting on that old side, and they've had a decent amount of injury luck. So I think this might be the year where that like really starts to hit them on the opposite end of things. They did just trade for Shaq Mason, your boy from New England, for a steal. 5th round pick or 6th round pick. Like that was pennies. I don't really know why they did that, in my opinion. So maybe he'll be able to like slide over, help whoever ends up being the backup that comes in. Obviously, they got some good young guys that are also there. They just lost Ali Marpet to early retirement earlier this offseason. So a lot of weird offensive line changes happening in Tampa Bay. But I think they'll end up being okay. But I think the injury bugs ended up hitting them. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts there?
I think first point, Shaq Mason went to the Bengals though, right? I don't think he went to the Bucks. I think he went to the Bengals for a 5th round pick.
Oh, this is way too much
So
detail. Let me
yeah,
look it up.
double check me while I give you a take here.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I think the silver lining here because it is absolutely awful to lose your starting center, and Ryan Jensen being one of the top centers in the NFL, maybe behind Jason Kelsey. But it's the fact that they get to figure out the communication early in camp, right? So their offense is going to be very audible, blitz coverage and just communication focused with Tom up there at the line. So to be able to get someone new up to speed early rather than throwing them in the middle of it on the Tuesday install or something like that, I think goes a long way. And then you look back to 2 years ago, Jensen was out for 4 to 6 weeks, and AQ Shipley stepped in, who AQ was a good offensive lineman in his own right, but he wasn't Ryan Jensen, and the Bucks rolled on. Then they got Jensen back in time for the playoffs, win the Super Bowl and everything. So you have Tom back there, which is going to help anyone figure out their assignment. You just hope that whoever comes in that to fill his shoes is able to really just hit his blocks right, and it doesn't affect too much of the passing game or anything. I think the interesting part might be if this actually puts a little bit of a hit on Leonard Fournette here, because your run blocking element from Ryan Jensen potentially is going to suffer. I don't know. I mean, it's camp. People step up all the time, but if they find out that their run blocking is atrocious, then that's just going to hurt Leonard Fournette.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, we're both fantasy football fans here. We both just love good football in general. So I want to see a healthy offensive line just so we see that explosive offense, like arguably the number one offense in the entire NFL last year. So you really hate to see it. Like also Ryan Jensen seems like a good guy, so you really hate to see it for him. Oh, I do want to mention James is more so going to be our podcast editor, audio, all that kind of stuff. So I want this to stay on the record. Shaq Mason did indeed get traded to the Tampa Bay Bucks, not the Cincinnati Bengals.
Oh
So
my! Thank you for. I'm just glad we got the truth out there. I would hate to be a perpetrator of fake news out here. So
I feel like we need to like keep a score or something. I might get like a tally or something going on. No,
a
I mean,
little
let's
scoreboard.
point up
Yeah.
for Matthew over here. So got Matt
Okay.
point for Mac real quick. So today's episode is brought to you by the Apple AirPods charging case. We all have tens of hundreds of devices to charge, each individually taking up precious time to charge. We've all been in that tale as old as time situation. After hours of walking around begging for someone to take one look at your AirPods and declare you the second coming of Steve Jobs and Jesus Christ himself, you come home dejected by everyone's lack of awareness. You immediately fall asleep as soon as your head hits the pillow. You wake up in a cold sweat at 7 p.m., thinking at 7 a.m., start getting dressed for school or work. You grab your phone and oh no, you forgot to charge it. It's more dead than your neighbor's dogs who like to chase cars, but they still refuse to keep them inside or on some sort of leash or invisible fence system. But still not your neighbor's fault when they get Polar Express by your GMC Yukon. You would plug in your phone, but alas, you know it would take hours to make any sort of meaningful dent in that pesky battery bar. However, you look at your AirPods charging case. You plug them in while you attempt a Gen Z middle part and brush your teeth with your thrice rolled tube of Crest. In the mere 5 minutes that you took to get ready to show your face to your work or classmates of which you barely remember their names, your AirPods have fully charged. Seemingly, the clouds have opened up and God himself charged those bad boys in two shakes of a lamb's tail. You now have all day entertainment at the tips of your earlobes, admittedly with pretty mid sound quality. You imagine a universe where everything is made of the Apple AirPods charging case, your razor, your speaker, your car. The possibilities of immediate charging are endless. How are we not funding this? Thank you again to the Apple AirPods charging case. And if you go to apple.com and type in Mac and D's when you check out, you'll receive 100 basis points off your first order of AirPods. That is Mac and D's. Happy listening. I don't know why we're talking about offensive line so much. This is primarily a fantasy football pod for this first week. So, do you want to talk about the whole Kyler Murray deal that went down?
Yeah, absolutely. So first things first, though, the game starts in the trenches, so you can't discount the lineman there. But yeah, the Kyler Murray deal, though, one again, you love to see a young guy get paid. That is awesome for him to get that much money. The wild part being just the fiasco of the 4 study hall hours. It was in, then it wasn't in. He's got college coaches talking about how much he loves watching film. You've got conflicting reports of people like, yeah, that guy just plays COD all day. It is all over the place. It's definitely just prime F5 season news that you're wanting to read. So he's still got a ball out on a fantasy perspective. The dude's fast. The dude can throw the ball. It's just really weird to have this be the drama, surrounding a guy that just got paid $240 million.
Yeah, honestly, it is a super weird thing. And yeah, you're 100% right. Like, I feel like it's just such a news cycle thing right now because I was in an airport this past weekend, and they were showing like the basketball tournament TBT on ESPN, like the main channel. Like I'm not even talking like ESPN the Ocho or something like that. Like they were showing absolutely nothing. It's like Canadian football. There's knife throwing going down on ESPN. We are in the dog days of summer, 100%. So I think that's kind of what ended up spurring a lot of thought. It seemed like Ian Rappaport ended up being the person who ended up finding it. And he was just like going through it, trying to find something else, and he just came across that as like a weird little thing. But it does sound like they're taking it out. I think Kyler just like has such a high ceiling just in general. Like he's very much so like the closest we have to another Lamar Jackson. And like Lamar Jackson was the second unanimous MVP in NFL history. Like and Kyler Murray can get you to that level almost. So I feel like you pay for your top 10 guys is a very, very big contract. But there wasn't too long ago whenever people were talking about my boy Matt Stafford as one of the most overpaid quarterbacks. But you have a few more years, kind of get more mature. And also other guys end up getting bigger and bigger contracts because that's the way it works. You know, you got a guy who sets the market and then someone else sets it and then someone else sets it. So I think we'll look back on this as something just really stupid. I don't know if you saw that one Reddit graph that was going around. It's like a really terrible graph where they were saying like the R squared is like 0.56. And I was like, that's not a very good R squared. But it was like showing a graph of how much COD he was playing and when the
Yeah,
COD game
it
got
was the COD release
yeah.
date versus fantasy production, and it was horrendous. But they threw a trend line on there and pointed down. They're like, "See, look, he's bad at the end of the season because of COD." So
Yeah, it's
that
like
that was rough. As I'm not a statistician, but I know a bit of math, and that was tough to look through.
yeah, they're like, this is definitive proof. And I was like, what are we even doing here? It reminded me of the James Harden strip club fiasco. I don't know if you saw that.
Yes,
It's
exactly.
called. People get creative out there. They have way too much time on their hands, in my opinion. So
Yeah, I think we can just chalk it up. Like you said, it's F5 season. People have nothing to talk about. So there
you're
we go.
bored, you need to go outside. That's all I'm saying. It's nice out.
Yep.
Okay, so the main topic that we want to get to today, speaking of shorter players, we want to talk about running backs today. So that's kind of going to be the meat of this first podcast that we're going through. So we're going to go through our running back rankings just really vaguely. We want to look at the guys that we're really pumping up, who we're going to be reaching for in our leagues. I hope none of our fantasy league mates, James and I, are in a league right now. Hope nobody else is listening to this because I'm going to be spoiling some of my thoughts, but also some of the running backs that we're fading as well. So guys that we're going to be letting other people take or reach for instead of us. So who do you think is 101, James? Who do you think is the top guy?
Yeah, I mean, it's chalky. Everyone's going to take JT first, right? I mean, that's just what's going to happen. If you're in a league where he's not taken first, and you're somehow that lucky person that has the second pick and gets to have JT over anyone else, I mean, you just grab it. It's one of those ones where when you pick him and he gets injured, you're like, oh, I got unlucky, but I tried to pick the best guy. He's not going to be someone that you pick and you go, how did he only get 800 yards this season? It doesn't make sense. Like they're going to give him the ball as long as he's healthy. He's going to produce for you.
Yeah. I've been reading some articles lately, and they've been saying like top 10 guys, first round guys, have been some of the most injured players over the last like 5, 6 years. So, like, if you get injured, you get injured. If you lose your league based off that, like, what are you supposed to do? Because everybody's getting injured in that range.
I would rather lose my league because I took JT number one overall than lose my league because I reached for, I don't know, like Devonte Adams or just like some crazy like off the wall conspiracy pick, number one overall because you're trying to out big brain play people. So
Dude, people get cute with that. Like they're always trying to like be the cool guy, trying to get the oohs and the ahs when you're at your draft and such. And I'm like, no, you got to sometimes you got to be a little less cute with it. Yeah, I
yeah,
think
well,
we're on.
speaking of cute here, Mister, who's your number two running back? All right, so you're at pick two. I just took JT. I'm looking at your rankings right now. Who are you taking?
Yeah, so I'm a little weird with this one. I got Najee Harris second in the running back rankings. I love Najee as a person. I hate the Steelers personally. Not a huge Steelers guy, but as an individual, I think Najee is a cool person. It's also why I love Jonathan Taylor. Like they're both very smart guys. They know what they're doing. They know what they're talking about. I think they're also just like really fun players. Like I don't know if you saw that quote that came out from Najee saying like, "Oh, I'm not going to wear a visor this year because I want to see people in the eyes whenever I'm running."
I did see that quote. Yeah.
He's got that dog in him, you know. So I love Najee for that. I hate his offensive line, which is what's really, really like hurting me. Like even during like the preseason last year, like that was a big, big red flag going into the year. But he still ended up being really solid. Like I had him on some championship teams for me, and I'm a believer going forward. Like I believe in the talent. I feel like the talent definitely rises to the top. He was the number one overall recruit coming out of high school. great Bama teams, and he's going to get the volume. Like I know they have a lot of good wide receivers, but they're going to have to hand it off. Whether it's Mitch Trubisky getting the snaps at quarterback, whether it's Kenny Pickett, God forbid Mason Rudolph. I think they're going to have to hand it off, and it's going to be to Najee. He's going to get a lot of touches. He's great out of the backfield as well, and I think he's going to get the volume. And like when you're that young too, like you're a little less prone to falling off, not necessarily getting injured. Like anybody can get injured. Like I feel like our next guy that we have, you have number 2 instead of me, Christian McCaffrey. People are always like, oh, he's a piece of paper. You know, he's going to get injured every 10 seconds. But like everybody at this range could end up getting injured. McCaffrey's at that age, in my opinion, that makes me drop him down one slot. We've had this debate all throughout in our DMs and such. I love McCaffrey, but like that age range is like right when like players start hitting their peak and they start falling off a little bit. It's like the Le'Veon Bell regression a little bit. And so that's what scares me with McCaffrey. He's like he's hitting that age range. It's not that he's played 10 games into the last 2 years. It's more so that he's just hitting that upper echelon. So why do you have McCaffrey
Yeah.
second?
Well, no, so I'll add to it. So I got to say I'm not the ultimate Najee truther like you, but at least the points you're bringing up, I can see where you're coming from here because when you look at the next group of guys, so C-Mac, Austin Eckler, Dalvin Cook, Joe Mixon, Derrick Henry, they all fall into that. They're kind of starting to age a bit. I think Joe might be the youngest of them at like 26 or 27.
Mm-hmm.
But they all have a lot of carries kind of already under their belt. So I can understand where you're there. I do not trust that offensive line. They really. I know Ben was a shell of himself last year, but he got the shell of Big Ben got absolutely pounded into the absolute just into oblivion last year. So that's scary to see. I don't know if that offense will be remotely successful at all. I mean, Najee might be fighting with Mitch Trubisky and Deontay Johnson for the one touchdown a game that they get. So that's where it's a little scary to pick him so highly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the thing that you see is, man, when C-Mac is on the field, you have to love having him on your roster. I mean, it's even the past couple of years, though he's been injured, it's like those first 4 games when he's still in there, you're getting like 25 points a game if you're talking full PPR. So as long as Carolina can try to figure out how to not make him take 80 hits a game, whatever that is. But you just love having that level of talent. I think, by the same token, if you grabbed Austin Eckler number 2, same thing, that the dude he gets quality touches. He's great. He's going to be in an awesome offense. That might actually make him number 2 over Christian McCaffrey just because that Chargers offense will have way better opportunity than Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
But, those guys, I don't think you're not going to be beating yourself up over taking, any of those guys as that next pick.
Mm-hmm.
I think where you start to really question, if you're reaching at number 2 is when you start looking at like the Joe Mixon, Derrick Henry category, because Derrick Henry's the big name, but he's coming off that foot injury. He's run the ball so many times. At what point do the wheels fall off? Because unfortunately, with running backs, it's never a slow decline. It's all of a sudden the wheels are just off. So it'll be interesting to see. But I'm kind of spoiling, like you said. I'm sure you're going to come into who's kind of your don't touch them, and it's like I just don't want Derrick Henry in that first round this year.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, I was looking over at the Panthers depth chart as well as the Steelers depth chart. As much as I was going through the Steelers offensive line, being like, who? I feel like an owl out here. Felt the same way with the Panthers. Like, I don't know who any of these guys. They got a guy named Michael Jordan out there. Like, I thought he played basketball, so I don't know.
Sounds like they got greatness on the line. Then that's all you need.
But yeah, you make a great point about Henry. Like, I have been fading Henry for years. Like, I didn't like him for Heisman whenever he was at Bama. Not a great take now, but I wanted Watson for that Heisman. Going into the league, he was fighting for carries with DeMarco Murray, Bishop Sankey. Like, he never really seemed to be able to get it off the ground. Once he got to the NFL, he seemed to really lack vision and a little bit of burst, in my opinion. Like, once he hits open field, he's gone. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, dude's a freight train, and once he gets up to speed, he's gone. But like, it felt like he lacked a little bit of acceleration there for a little bit. But he obviously proved us all wrong. Like, he did really, really well, ended up being one of the best offensive players of this entire decade so far. But I also really hesitate to be like, okay, this is the year I'm actually going to take him. Like, I've always been like, everybody else could take Derrick Henry, but like, this actually might be the year. Like, last year actually happened. Like, he was the guy for the first like 6-7 weeks before he got injured, but then he got hurt. And like, it might just end up being a prophecy going forward as well. So I'm avoiding Henry. I'm also avoiding Dalvin Cook. Don't love Dalvin Cook this year. I'm avoiding Joe Mixon. and Alvin Kamara as well. Just like where they're getting drafted, which let me look it up real quick. So Cook is getting
Yeah.
drafted roughly sixth overall. Mixon's getting drafted about 10th overall. And then Kamara's getting a little lower. He's at 18th right now. He's been fading a little bit. All three of those guys, just like with the character issues, I don't really necessarily love drafting guys with character issues. The way that their offenses are structured, so like Cook is getting a more pass heavy offense coming up most likely this year. Kamara no longer has Drew Brees. He really struggled at times last year. I don't know if you had Kamara on a team or anything last year, but it was a very miserable experience. And then Joe Mixon, really, he did hit his peak. Like there were memes going around last year, like, dang, Joe Mixon sitting there at round one, 10th overall. Like you got to take him, because like he's the big talent, and he actually delivered on it last year. But he still just like terrifies me as like a guy who can sometimes just go for like 2 yards per carry in games. And I feel like there's going to be a huge Super Bowl hangover coming up in Cincinnati. So all three of those guys really, really scare me, as well as Derrick Henry personally.
Yeah, I think that group is because Cook has a looming potential 6 game suspension. Kamara, same thing, has a looming potential 6 game suspension. It makes me very nervous to touch them. Kamara, I would not draft under any circumstance unless, I mean, it was like one of those late. Like again, he will never fall this far because of just the brand value behind him. But it'd have to be like 7th or 8th round before I'm
Yeah.
grabbing him, just because he's going to miss the first half of the season.
Okay, well,
Cook,
we hate all these guys, but like who would you take instead? Like who in that like second round range is
no, I
really
would
good?
take Mixon. I would absolutely take Mixon. So I agree they might have a bit of a Super Bowl hangover, but that offense is going to score so many points that Joe Mixon, like basically for the same reason I said I'm nervous on Najee, is like the exact opposite for Mixon. So even with touchdown regression, even with the offense moving more to a pass heavy scheme, like just being a part of that Cincinnati offense, which is insane to think that a year later, I mean, last offseason, there's no way we would have been talking so excitedly about Cincinnati's offense, but here we are. Like I would just any piece you can get a Cincinnati's offense, I think will do really well for you. And I've seen where you can get Joe Mixon as that late, like your 8 or number 9 pick, something like that. So if he's falling to you at that point, you can easily go running back, and feel very comfortable having maybe a higher risk running back with a more steady, DeAndre Swift for you Lions fans out there type running back. And it doesn't look as flashy as having Jonathan Taylor, but you're gonna have very good running back production with a turn like that.
Yeah, 100%. I'm on the same page with you with Swift. It's not even like a homer thing for me. I've definitely followed into the hole before. I drafted my boy Amir Abdullah way too high. On Johnson, I drafted way too high. Both ended up just completely shitting the bed. But I love DeAndre Swift for fantasy this year. It's not even a homer thing. Like, he's going to be an offense with Jared Goff. Like, Jared Goff is the definition of mid in today's NFL. He's going to have to hand it off to someone. Swift is also really good out of the backfield. Yes, Jamal Williams is still looming, but I think in this upcoming offense, we don't have a ton of receivers. People will talk about like the improved receiving core in Detroit. Like, yes, you have Amon Ra. He was really amazing last year. I'm getting one of his jerseys. Like, it's in the mail right now. Love Amon Ra St. Brown. TJ Hawkinson's really good. You have DJ Chark coming in out of free agency. He had a down year last year. And then the fourth guy that's kind of like the X factor is Jameson Williams. But he's hurt. He ain't coming back until like October is like the plan as of now. So I feel like Swift is going to be the focal point of that offense. And especially whenever we do, the Jimmy Garoppolo special, we're doing the little 1 yard dump off with Jared Goff. It's going to get stale, and we're going to have to go to the explosive guy. We're going to have to go to the most talented guy. And I feel like Swift is going to end up being the engine of that offense. And same thing with Nick Chubb. Like, Chubb is a very, very talented player. Yes, you always have Kareem Hunt, and now freaking Dearness Johnson came out of nowhere last year to steal some carries. I think Chubb is just so talented. The offensive line is really solid. And it seems like early in the year, at least, they're going to have backup quarterbacks in there, so they're going to have to run it a lot. So I love Chubb a lot in that second round. I think he's going to be a really great value.
Yeah, I think just quickly before we talk more with the second round, I mean, DeAndre Swift is in that second round, but at what point would you maybe start reaching for him? Because he's young, he's incredibly talented, and he's on an offense that's going to need to utilize him.
Mm.
Again, without spoiling your, maybe number 10 pick or something, but like at what point are you saying, okay, I'm passing on these wide receivers. I'm just going to go ahead and grab me some
Yeah,
D Swift.
we're not talking receivers today, but like I like a lot of the early receivers this year, especially like some of the younger guys. I'm looking at like Jefferson. I'm looking at Jamar Chase. Honestly, I would reach very highly for Swift. Like I am looking in that like 8-9 range. I would be happy with taking Swift because I don't know if you remember last year. Jonathan Taylor was a second round pick, very
Yeah,
squarely as a second round pick, and people were
huge.
really worried about him being a young, unproven player. And like Swift, same thing. Like, if you want to actually win your league, and you don't want to be the guy who just ends up getting left behind with their hands empty, like Swift is the guy who could actually have like that super high ceiling that can end up winning you your league.
Yeah,
Personally,
anecdotal evidence for you though. So last year, I had the opportunity to pick between Aaron Jones and Jonathan Taylor as my first running back off the board, and I'm like, "There's no way I can pass up Aaron Jones," so I snagged him. Right?
mhm,
And I'm sitting there sweating, hoping JT comes back to me. But if I don't get him, I'm like, all right, whatever. And he does. And I snagged him, I think, honestly, right before you picked.
big.
And again, that wins me the league because I have two bona fide RB1s. But like you said, don't let, thinking, okay, well, it's Kamara. Let me grab Kamara ever, or maybe like a Mixon or Cook take you potentially over a Swift. Is that kind of where you're sitting?
Yeah, yeah, and like there's like that pedigree going on with like Kamara. I feel like he's won leagues for people. He had that what like 5 or 6 touchdown game where like
Kamara again.
Christmas. Yeah, that was awful. I lost so many leagues based off of that. I was so bad. But yeah, I think some of these guys that are a little bit more the great value brand, they're a little more discount. You got Swift. You like Javante Williams a lot. I'm pretty just like ADP level with him. I think there's a lot of other second round picks that you can go with that you don't have to go with these guys with the baggage, the potential baggage, or like the potential cliff coming very soon. There's a lot of younger guys that I feel like you can end up grabbing instead.
Yeah. So I'm curious here because you have Nick Chubb, as you're pretty high on him. When you get to that, say you're picking later second round, you have an opportunity for Chubb. Are you for sure snagging him? Because I'm looking at it, like you said, I like Javante. It's just the young talent that has the potential to really just pop off. I know Melvin Gordon's back, but they weren't, doing everything they could to sign Melvin Gordon. He just kind of happened to land back on the Broncos. It's going to be a lot better offense. He's a 1 year wiser. I could see him having an absolutely hellacious season.
It's true.
But the guy that people are sleeping on is Saquon.
Yeah,
So it's back to it's the same argument as Christian McCaffrey, but you can get him with the last pick of the second round. It's like, oh, he's hurt, I don't want him. Yeah, but he's just supremely talented, right? And you're on a Giants team that, God, do I hate the Giants as a Patriots fan, but they are improving. They got rid of Judge, who was just the absolute antichrist for having a competent offense. They've got better linemen. They have a bit more of an ability to move the ball. You have Danny Dimes. That's going to be very unfortunate for you, but you can't discredit, or I guess you can't hype up DeAndre Swift when you have we have, oh my goodness, I'm absolutely blanking, but you've got your boy Jared Goff back there, and then say, oh well, Saquon's got Danny Dimes, so I can't draft him. It's like, okay, the guy's he's a talent, he can eat.
hundred
Um,
percent.
I would jump all over him. Maybe not reach necessarily, but if he falls to me, I'm not going to run away from grabbing a Saquon.
100%. Yeah, he is dropping, I feel like, in a lot of leagues, like especially like the more like casual leagues that you're in. I feel like Saquon is like that home name that everybody knows, but the people that have had him before and have been burned, myself included, like you're terrified of taking Saquon Barkley. Like you're up at night just thinking about how Saquon Barkley just burned your team because he had like that really great week 1 and then got injured by week 2 kind of thing going on.
So
I
he's never hurt me. Maybe that's why I'm so excited for him. I'm ready to be hurt by him because it hasn't happened to me yet.
like that Steve Carell meme. I'm ready to get hurt again.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I agree. Like the way that he is dropping in a lot of leagues, I would totally pick him up. If you have some casuals in your league and they're like, you know what, I don't want to touch him anymore, I think he's totally worth that risk, and I'll be taking him too
Mhm.
if he's in that like third round range, 100%.
Yeah. So someone you've highlighted, I'd love you to maybe talk about the argument here. I didn't highlight him. I do like him as a running back, but someone that's coming in pretty often below the Kamaras and even below James Connors, like a Travis Etienne.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering here, do you think he's going to continue vaulting up these draft boards, or is he someone that you could still snag pretty cheaply here within the next week or two?
Yeah, I think this is like a big thing that just like people that the 5 listeners that we have at home, hi mom, need to really consider is the different types of rankings that are out there. I think this is one of the most interesting exercises that you can do. Just compare ESPN rankings versus like Yahoo rankings or sleeper rankings or just like general ADP. You could find values that are in there really randomly. So like the year that like Tyler Higbee went off and ESPN, he was like 150th. But then Yahoo leagues, he was getting drafted in like 110th. And so it's just like a huge range there. So if you can get a guy at a value in ESPN leagues, he's 150th, because let's be honest, a lot of people just draft based off what the ESPN predetermined rankings are, and a lot of those are they're mushed together from a bunch of different experts. They have a very, very talented staff over, but they also just lost Matthew Berry, who's like the cream of the crop of the entire industry, right? And so there's a lot of value that you can get with guys like Travis Etienne. So like in ESPN leagues, he's right around like that 50th range, 50 to 60 range, with a bunch of just like really average players, in my opinion, like Cortland Sutton and stuff like that. Like people that are definitely on my like do not draft list. And then you have Travis Etienne that, like, in my opinion, he's more of like a 30th overall type of guy. Like, I think there's a lot of value there. Yahoo, Sleeper, all have him. A lot of like the expert drafts that are going on have him much higher. There's like really obvious, like low hanging fruit things going on in Jacksonville that make sense for him to be picked up. Like, he's getting a lot of receiver work. James Robinson doesn't look that great still. You don't have Urban Meyer anymore going, to do some infidelity at one of his bars. Like there's a lot of different things that are like really falling into place for this to be a decent Jacksonville year. And I think Travis Etienne will be a big part of it. Do you like ETN?
Yeah, yeah, I think it's a case of just no one that does fantasy football is a Jags fan. So like you're just gonna potentially be lucky that no one is drafting this guy. Um, we don't know what we don't know, but we do know that he's talented. We know he's fast. We know he can catch the ball.
Yeah.
He's going to be an RB1 on a team. A lot of opportunities, so you're just going to take advantage of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's. I know it's hard. It's a hard pill to swallow. You're like, oh, I'm going to take a Jacksonville Jaguar player. Like that's what I want to do with my fourth round pick. It's not an easy pill to swallow, but he's the kind of guy you might actually feel okay going for. Maybe he could be the second coming of Maurice Jones-Drew or something. You could be excited to have a Jaguars running back.
Maybe.
But to your point earlier, though, the difference in rankings, a guy that I love, and unfortunately you're bringing it up, so I'll go ahead and bring it up because I've been trying to get him everywhere. Some AJ Dillon. I think the Packers offense is going to have to run the ball a lot. I think AJ Dillon has proven he can catch the ball. And I think you can get him very easily in the 6th or 7th round, especially in ESPN where they had like their preseason rankings on AJ Dillon was like a 120, like throwaway last pick running back.
Literally how?
And it made absolutely no sense. So that's a guy where if you're in kind of a casual family league, you could absolutely get an AJ Dillon pretty easily, in the 7th, 8th, 9th round and feel comfortable that you're one injury away from having an RB1 on your team with an AJ Dillon draft.
Yeah.
Sorry, not trying to hijack the ETN, but
no,
ETN's good. AJ Dillon also very good. Would love to hear your thoughts on AJ Dillon.
Great comparison. Like, yeah, he's 100% not a household name. I feel like he went to Boston College, but if you look up his thighs, yeah, you'll be a believer after that.
Thick thighs save lives. That's why I'm going Saquon Barkley and the guy or the quad father AJ Dillon to really round out my team.
The all thighs squad. Yeah, I like AJ Dillon a lot. Not necessarily like as an individual player in a vacuum, but I love him in his situation. It seems like he's 100% falling in favor with the Green Bay Packers coaching staff. And it seems like Aaron Jones is splitting out wide a lot. And especially like down the stretch last year, AJ Dillon was getting a lot of run. It's a committee right now, but I could definitely see AJ Dillon kind of being that new guard guy. Like it felt like Aaron Jones was like right after like the James Starks and such of the world, right after Eddie Lacy kind of went to Seattle and fell off, and Jones kind of hijacked that backfield, being a 6th-round pick out of UTEP. And it feels like AJ Dillon's doing the exact same thing. He's Aaron Jonesing Aaron Jones, and it's really wild to see going in real time. So
I think the exciting thing for Green Bay too is they don't have receivers. I mean, Allen Lazard has been given so many opportunities to be a good receiver and has just absolutely squandered them every chance he gets. He's one of those people where like people are hyping up as like, oh, this is his year to be wide receiver one. It's like, okay, he's had chances with Devontae out. He's had chances where Randall Cobb is his only competent competition for number 2. Doesn't do anything with it. I mean, he lets Rob Tonyan take targets and catches from him. To me, it's almost like Aaron Jones might become just the de facto slot receiver for the Packers with some running back touches. I could see both of these guys just producing just really, really well for you to where like it doesn't scare me to take Aaron Jones early and it doesn't scare me to take AJ Dillon early because I think that's going to be their offense this year is they have Aaron Rodgers dumping it off to open running backs.
Yeah, I will not touch a single pass catcher in that Packers wide receiver room. Bob Tunyon, I don't want to touch either. Like not even with the 10-foot pole kind of thing. I refuse to do it because I think
I'll
it's
just
weird.
wait for whoever they've got lying and wait to be that next person. And, I don't know if it's what Christian Wilkerson. You'll probably get him off the waiver wire week 3.
Watkins, Christian
All of a
Watkins,
sudden, lost day, but
Watkins, yeah.
he'll be an absolute stud or something. It feels like that where it's going to be like one of those years where Aaron Rodgers makes a receiver that we don't know really good, and I'll grab that guy. I'm not going to reach in my draft for Alan Lazard. I
Yeah,
just think he's had too many chances to produce, and he just doesn't.
we can talk about this later, but with the wide receiver five, but like Christian Watson's had some weird things coming out of camp right now. Like apparently not gelling too well. He's had an injury already, so he's one of my
Okay, yeah,
favorite.
that's probably the next podcast episode. We can get all the way into it. I said I
100%.
won't derail us here. It's just man, I just can't believe people are like discrediting both of
No,
these running backs because like
agreed.
the only thing we know about the offense is how good these two running backs are, but then people are not taking that into consideration and they're like treating them as if we don't know what quantity or what commodity we're getting out of these two
Yeah,
guys.
yeah. I'm seeing your last highlighted one. I want to hear a little homerism out of you. So, sell me on Damian Harris. Why is he one of
Yeah.
your favorites later on?
Okay, so the reason Damien is falling is because there were some initial rumblings that he might get traded. We drafted another running back this year, I think in the third round. Something I can't remember his name, which is not great as a Patriots
I'll
fan
look
to
it
not
up.
remember your
Don't worry.
draft picks. But so people are kind of like, oh, what are we getting rid of the ball? We've got James White in the backfield, we got Ramondre Stevenson, and we've got I think it's JJ Taylor.
Yeah, the ghost
So
of Rex
it's
Burkhead too.
no, Rex Burkhead's a Texan, man.
Yeah, I know, but he never
Sexy
goes
Rexy,
away. Yeah, he never goes
he never goes away. Yeah, but people are just so worried about Damian Harris, and to me, it's unfounded. So I don't think James White is going to step on a football field again. He had a horrific hip injury that
Yeah,
when you're old, you just do not bounce back from. I think he's going to get the Foxborough flu and either get paid out on his way to retirement or get to sit in IR and rehab for a year and then get to retire. I just don't see him coming back. And I love Sweet Feet, so that hurts to see because that dude is an absolute baller.
yeah, that can happen so
Right. So
quickly in
now,
the NFL right now. Like Chris Carson, I don't know if you saw his
yeah,
retirement.
the neck injury and retirement.
If you hit
Yeah.
that just bad injury luck as a running back, you don't come back. So
Yeah, yeah, it's just running back bad luck. But what you have is Damian Harrison, or Harris, sorry, who just keeps falling, and the guy is an absolute stud. Like he touches the ball and makes things happen. You watch like he and Ramondre just run just violently, and it's fantastic to watch as a 3 yards and cloud of dust kind of football game. But the thing is, like these guys don't go down. So I get it that people are really excited for Ramondre Stevenson, but Damon Harris is still an absolute stud running back. There's no reason to run away from him, and you can get him in like the eighth or ninth round. Depending, maybe not that late, but I mean he's been absolutely just plummeting down boards, and it makes no sense because he's on a contract year, so he's going to want to play well. Um, he's he's in an offense that should be improved. Like it's not going to just be Mac Jones throwing 5 yard outs, all game. Like he's going to be better. We're going to be
it's gonna be
in a
60 yard
much
outs
better
now.
situation. Yeah, 6 yard. Yeah, exactly. So we'll be able to space a little bit better. We got a new speedster. Hopefully he actually is able to kind of just expand the defense a little bit. So I'd be. It's tough to actually really endorse any Patriots running back because any given week they're, God knows what we're going to do on offense. But especially if you're playing best ball, don't run away from Damian Harris. And I just think in general, if he falls to you, don't be scared to take Damian Harris.
Yeah,
Just play the matchup.
it seems like a lot of people are fading Damian Harris right now, but the area that he's getting drafted in, it's like with a bunch of handcuffs almost. It's like Kareem Hunt, Tony Pollard. Like I would more so rather have that
Yeah,
lead guy. So, and he was like, I think he
Damian
was
Harris has the
like
potential.
last year.
Well, he has the potential for 25 touches in a game, and like Tony Pollard, I know he's talented, and everyone's just waiting for the moment he takes over. But until Zeke is actually retired, I'm not trusting that Tony Pollard is taking over for Zeke. So,
Personally, I'm
I just
convinced. I'm convinced that Jerry Jones would have to like sell the team before Zeke Elliott stopped getting touches as like the number
I think so too. That might be it.
Yeah. I honestly, so I was shocked, but not shocked to have Damian Harris as one of your favorites. I also really love his backup, Ramondre Stevenson. I think he is an uber talented guy. Kind of came out of nowhere, coming out of Oklahoma. He's like a 6th round pick or something crazy like that. And I just think he's uber talented. He really took over whenever Damian Harris was like slowing down, or did he get injured for a bit? I can't even remember.
He missed a game or two.
Yeah,
It's just like you said. It's running backs, man. They get banged up. Like,
yeah, it's a
yeah,
17
he's
game
not going to
season.
play all 17 games. He's not going to get 30 carries all 17 games. Like
Yeah,
that will.
I still can't believe I sent you that tweet that someone sent out today that I wanted to briefly mention, the 82 game season tweet. Like this
Yeah,
guy,
that. Oh my god.
what was
The
that?
like just the thought about that. So for the listeners here, he's referencing a tweet where someone was talking about, oh, let's just go ahead and have an 82 game season for the NFL, so it's like basketball,
Yeah,
and then we're is basically just making fun of like the fact that every offensive lineman would be injured by about week 20
yeah.
or like week 25, something like that. So yeah, it's I don't even know how to take that. Like, I mean, that guy had to be trolling. There's no way anyone could actually expect anything. I can't believe we even have a 17 game season. Like, I can't imagine adding more games past that.
Yeah, the wild thing is like as a really big NBA fan, that's probably like my primary sport. They want to shorten the season. Like there's been talks forever about shortening the season because guys keep like sitting out. They can't handle the 82 game grind. It wears down on your body. And you have to be really lucky in order to like survive the 82 game grind. And that's in basketball. That's like a less contact sport than football. We were playing like gladiator sports over here. They want to go to 82 games. Like you're gonna have people retiring within like 2 years of being in the NFL. You're gonna have guys that have their ACLs snapping every 2 seconds. Like it's gonna be like firecrackers. Just people fall into the ground. Like this is the worst take I've seen in a hot minute. So
Yeah. So I'm just chalking that one up to troll. It was definitely funny to read, but there's no way anyone could possibly think more than a 19 game season is reasonable.
yeah, the dude got
But
ratioed like crazy on Twitter. So not a big
so I
surprise.
think we probably need to wrap up the rankings here, but maybe I want to list off two names for you because I think well, I don't know where you stand on one, but I know you're pretty high on the other. So where do you put like Cam Akers and Josh Jacobs? To me, it seems like you're pretty high on Josh Jacobs, and I just don't know how to really quantify what these guys are worth. It like they're just an absolute cloud of mystery to me.
Dude, it's so hard with the injuries not to be like an armchair doctor. Like I really want to be like Cam Akers, talented guy, but that Achilles, it's snapped in half basically, and he didn't look the same whenever he came back to the playoffs. It almost seemed like he came back like too early. So I definitely worry about Akers, and like I feel like I'm trying to just like be that smart medical person, and I really got to stop myself from doing so. But like he just seems too risky to me, and like they brought in some other guys because yeah, it was the injury, but also it seemed like they didn't think that he could handle a whole workload. They still have Henderson. They brought in Michelle last year. I know Michelle's now in Miami, but that just like doesn't make me feel like McVay has a lot of trust. And we saw with the whole Goff situation, when you lose McVay's trust, like you're out of there kind of thing. So I think Akers was a very talented running back in college. I'm kind of over him now. I've had him in
Okay.
leagues. He's definitely like done good stuff for me in leagues, but I'm just over it. Love Josh
Go-
Jacobs though. Big Josh Jacobs fan. I think he's a very talented player. They didn't pick up his fifth year option, which is crazy. Like when you're a first round pick, the way the contracts are structured, you have 4 automatic years that are automatically on the books. And then at the fifth year, your team can pick up that fifth year if they want to. If you're good, you get picked up. If you're not so good, you kind of go in that weird limbo. You might just go to like franchise tag kind of range. But if you're like really not good, that's when your fifth year option doesn't get picked up. And so it's like super strange to me that we have Jacobs, who's been a Pro Bowl running back, going with guys like Miles Sanders, who's not even getting first team reps anymore. We have him going with like Kareem Hunt and Chase Edmonds, who are going to be in these like weird committee kind of things or just like backups. So like Jacobs is like a clear cut top guy in my opinion. He's been to Pro Bowls. Yes, it seems like they have a little bit of wavering of faith. Maybe they're just like, we're just going to run him into the ground this year, and then we're not going to re-sign him, and we just don't want to even deal with him again. But if that ends up being the case and he gets a ton of volume this year, I want to be the guy who ends up taking Jacobs in that middle round. So I think he's a
It's
great RB3 kind of thing for your team.
Yeah, and it wasn't that long ago. He was an early second round pick. I think it was all of 2 years ago, and because people saw him after that rookie year when he balled out. So
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't run away from him. I don't know how to value him just because the offense is going to be a whole new look. But yeah, I think he'll just get a lot of good opportunities in the red zone. Cam Akers, I don't know. That's like it's like that's just tough, and I
Yeah.
think where you have to draft him makes it almost not worth it. Like screw it, I'll take a dart last pick on Darrell Henderson and hope that I can just get a fading glimpse of some Rams rushing offense. But I just don't know what Cam Akers is going to be.
Yeah, my goal with Cam Akers is just not to take him and let him go all the way to the top, and then that one person that's in your draft that's on auto draft, and it's like always
Just
the
takes
best. Like,
him.
just let them
Yeah,
take it. If he
yeah.
ends up going great, happy for him. But at the same time, I don't want to be that guy that reaches for him. So
Yeah, and then so you said Miles Sanders. I'm going to toss in Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I've been hurt by these guys so many times. I'm so done with them.
CH,
Right, like Kansas City, it should be this awesome opportunity for CEH to just crush it. And they're just like, how do we find older, more experienced guys to not let Clyde touch the field? Like that's like their entire offensive strategy right now is how do we make sure CEH is not on the field? And like you said, like Miles Sanders, like I think the guy even told you not to draft him in fantasy. Like it's almost like a masterclass on how to tank your real life value in the NFL. So like Miles Sanders is going through that right now. I would not go anywhere near these guys.
Yeah, it's so wild to me that like a couple years ago when CEH was a rookie, there's Louis Riddick from ESPN, the old Monday Night Football announcer, was like, take him first overall. That's why we do it in my leagues. And looking back on that is just insane now because his stock
Well,
is.
you looked like a genius. I think he's going like number 7 overall. And like that first game, he had 23 carries. I'm like, oh shoot, like this Chiefs team's gonna actually run the ball. They're gonna be balanced this year. And then by week 3, it's like, oh, he doesn't see the field.
Yeah,
Cool.
my man fell off. So
He fell off.
let's go ahead and move on to our hot takes of the week. So we're just doing some like rapid fire takes, just to get some information out there so people can start feeling like where we feel on a lot of different NFL subjects. So I got 10 questions for you. You have 10 questions
Yep.
for me. So we're just gonna run through these like literally like 30 seconds. Like I don't want to start a clock for this first time because we're still feeling out like the podcast kind of vibe. But like I don't want more than just a few sentences here. So my first question for you is, who is your best running back handcuff?
Yeah, so we talked about him, and I know they just signed, I think, Mike Davis, but I think Chuba Hubbard could be a sneaky running back handcuff for CMC that no one's going to fight you for.
Yeah.
I could see him having a good second year bump and just going for it. And because this is a hot take segment, so I'm not going to just pick the easy Tony Pollard.
Yeah, no, I'm a fan. Yeah, you had Mike Davis, who's a great handcuff. You got Chuba now. It just makes sense. We're gonna go back and forth. You want to alternate? Like you want to
I
do?
thought you were going to go through your list. I think you just go through the list.
Okay,
I'll
cool.
get the Skip Bayless juices flowing here.
Dude, I don't want to talk. I'm an introvert. So here we go. True or false? The second most valuable Chief flex is Mecole Hardman.
That's a hard false for me. I don't know. I'm not a huge Chiefs fan. I've watched enough Chiefs games in prime time to know that I just don't want Nicole Hardman. Give me Sky Moore as a rookie. Give me MSV. I just I mean I'm just not grabbing Nicole Hardman. I'll take a hard pass on him.
Yeah, dude. Just being from Missouri, I don't know if it's just like the algorithm or whatever. The propaganda for Sky Moore coming out of training camp is high. People love them some Sky Moore. There's a sky high joke in there that I'm not going to make.
Okay.
Who do you think will be the best fantasy sophomore quarterback? That's a very important demarcation. I'm not saying best sophomore
Fantasy.
quarterback.
Yeah.
Fantasy. Yeah.
Best sophomore quarterback, clearly Mac Jones. Mac 10 gonna do it for you, okay? But fantasy wise, it's got to be Trey Lance. I hate to be as chalky as possible, but it's like the entire world is just being handed to him as far as a super potent offense, a great defense, and a competent just offensive staff. Like the dude has every opportunity to do well. If he doesn't get it done this year, you have to start worrying if that was an absolute just wasted pick.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, they have a lot of stock in them. We do love Max here on this Mac and D podcast.
That's right.
So, old guy that falls off the hardest. So, like the examples I was thinking of with this question is like a Le'Veon Bell going from RB1 all the way down to not even in the league anymore to Todd Gurley. Same
Yeah.
thing. Offense
I'm
player.
probably gonna get absolutely eviscerated in hindsight, but Derrick Henry, I could see. It's not necessarily that I think he will. It's just like if it happens, I'd be like, well, yeah, he's run the ball 1,000 times in his career, so like clearly he's not going to be the same.
Yeah,
So I could see him just falling off pretty hard.
you're paying for past production with him. I just don't love
Yeah,
it. Who do you think will be the first coach to get fired?
super chalky take. It's got to be Matt Rule, right? Like I just nothing that Carolina team has done is like, oh, they're better now. I mean, yeah, I guess they got Baker, but they have the weirdest quarterback room where fans kind of want Darnold to keep playing, but then also like they want Baker. It's just it's all so weird that I'm just Matt Rule's gonna be gone. That dude's been a mistake.
Yeah, the timeline's really strange with them. Who do you think, or Jameis Winston is going to be a top blank fantasy quarterback? Is he going to be a top 5, top 10, top 15? What do you think there?
I could see top 5. He's gonna have this is dependent on Slant Boy being back. So if Michael Thomas is in fact healthy, which everything out of camp is kind of pointing towards him actually running routes this year, which is exciting. I could see just Jameis chucking up the ball nonstop. They're going to be down because I don't think they're going to be that great of a team. If Kamara's gone, they're going to be relying on Melvin or not Melvin. Sorry, they're going to be relying on the older Ingram,
Yeah.
the Mark Ingram of the world here. So I just don't know what else they're going to have to do besides throw the ball all game long. So I could see him just from pure volume standpoint being a top five quarterback.
Dude, I love it. I'm marking that down so we have that as a take. We got to put that in some stone right there. Yeah,
Again,
he's
I'm not going to be the
basic.
guy smart enough to take him that early, but I could see it happening. That's the tough part.
Dude, I did look up his ADP. I'm sure he's like in the 80s or something. Very, very, probably not even the 80s. Probably like easy
No,
hundreds.
dude,
So
you can get him as your easy QB2 on a super flex team.
yeah, exactly. So I love that. Big fan. QB5. Why not? Okay, who do you think is going to be the breakout tight end? So like Darren Waller
Yeah,
2 years ago, sort of thing.
no, I know. Give me Albert O. He's got Russell Wilson throwing him the ball this year. They got Noah Fant the heck out of there. It's like, you know what? We're all so focused on if Jerry Judy's actually a baller or not. Everyone's just absolutely swooning over Cortland Sutton. It's like, screw it. Give me Albert O. Let's watch Russell run around the pocket for 5 seconds and then dump it off to him.
Yeah, he's athletic as hell. Who's the media hype darling that you don't think will pan out? So like last year during the preseason, we had Marquez Callaway. People were like drooling over him, and he went up into like the top 100 of rankings. So who do you think it's this year?
Yeah, I have Tony Pollard jotted down, and I think this is just a boiling over of like 4 years of him being just like, oh my god, like Jerry Jones said, Zeke who, like Tony Pollard's going to be this guy, and it's like, what? I mean, I know he looks great on the field, but they've proven that like, they do not want to give him the ball. So like for me, it's just like every year we're so excited, and he just keeps creeping up the board, and he still just keeps doing about the same level of production. But we also just talked about it might be Cam Akers too. Like everyone's like, look how fast the Rams wanted him back in that backfield. You know, they played him in the Super Bowl, but Achilles tears aren't exactly good for you. So we'll see how that pans out.
Okay, I like it. I've never been a huge Pollard guy personally. I always like Zeke. Okay, this is my favorite question on here. Are we sure that Najee Harris won't be that guy? Like, are we not sure that he's going to be Hemi Neutron? I'm talking like Timothy Chalamet. Like, he is him.
Yeah,
He is that dude. Kid, do you agree or disagree?
that's I disagree, but I think for the meme's sake, he can't. It's like this guy could so easily be RB1, and then all the people that drafted him, with their eighth overall pick, and be like, "See, I know, like the master of fantasy football." And then all the people that were taking Austin Eckler like number 4 overall, and be like, "God damn it, why didn't I get Najee Harris? It was right there in front of me." But he could just as easily be like the 20th running back because the offense is just abysmal.
Yeah.
So like I you know what, screw it. Yeah, he's that guy. Why not? Just why not?
How do you get that sound bite?
I'm excited for the Steelers. I want to see Titty Boy out there just dropping dimes and hand that ball off to Najee.
James does saying Najee Harris is that guy. I need to make that like my alarm in the morning. I'll wake up to that
There
every
we
single
go.
day. Okay, you got to choose from the LSU boys: Justin Jefferson
Hmm.
or Jamar Chase.
Yeah, so I'm taking Justin Jefferson this year. Jamar Chase was so exciting last year because you got him with like a 6th or 7th round pick, but he still ended up like what, wide receiver 10 or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to discredit just Jamar Chase is an absolutely insane player. He won me my fantasy league last year. Like he's incredible. But Justin Jefferson is going to have a much more competent coaching staff this year. He's proven himself time and time again. I just think everything's pointing up for Justin Jefferson this year, and it's going to be pretty exciting to watch him play.
I think that's a great take. I think Justin Jefferson is just like such a silky athlete. He's already done it for 2 years. Like Chase has done it for 1 year, which is like really exciting and really cool.
And who does Justin Jefferson have to compete with for targets? Like I know Adam Thielen's a red zone beast, but the guy is he 30 yet? Like I mean, Adam Thielen has been producing nonstop. But at what point, like he might be the old guy that doesn't produce or just falls off? Because it's like,
You know?
at what point can he just not do it anymore? And then I mean, Justin Jefferson is just always open. He's a 7-Eleven convenience store, and Kirk loves throwing him the ball. So like I'm all about it. Versus Jamar Chase, like obviously he and Joe Burrow have a great chemistry, but there's Tyler Boyd who's great on that team. There's T Higgins who's an absolute stud. I mean, there's just so many options on the Bengals that Jamar Chase is going to get you a 50-point game and then follow it up with like 2 targets for 25 yards.
Yeah.
I think Justin Jefferson is just going to get the consistent volume the entire season.
Call him 7-Eleven. He's always open. I love it.
All right. I got my 10 questions for you.
Yes.
Okay. So, would you rather be the person who takes the first tight end off the board or the person that takes the first quarterback off the board?
See, I'm in so many leagues, like there are back home leagues or like family leagues that it's always ends up being a quarterback is in that first round. I'm also from Missouri, so I'm in a lot of Missouri leagues. So like Mahomes almost always goes like first or second round. And I refuse to do that. Like that would break my spirit if I end up having to do that. Unless it's like a super flex league, and that's like just like a whole completely different story. So I will always be the first tight end guy. I would prefer to take Kelsey. He's been super consistent. He's definitely a guy who could fall off a cliff this year, but I would rather take Kelsey. I think he's going like 30th in ESPN leagues, but like expert leagues have him going more like 20th. So I'd rather take Kelsey.
Yeah, Kelsey's hard to figure out because I've had mock drafts where he still gets snagged kind of end of round one, and I've had mock drafts where people forget he exists. It's pretty weird. So just be ready to pounce on him if you can.
Facts, yeah.
So at what point in round one are you going to take a wide receiver over a running back?
Yeah, we haven't talked too many receivers with this, but I'm comfortable with third overall. I think top two, you got to stay pretty shocky with it. You got to go with my boys. You got to go with JT. You got to do Najee. And then third overall, I'm very comfortable taking a Justin Jefferson. If you're more of a Cooper Cup guy, if you've seen it before, you've seen him be the second best receiver with Matt Stafford in all time, behind Megatron, of course. I'm very comfortable taking either of those guys third overall. If you're really a big Chase believer, take him third too. But Jefferson's the pick, and I'd take him at third personally.
Devontae Adams, you taking him third?
That's a little rich for my blood.
It's a little bit more risky.
I don't know
Okay.
if I like mascara boy Derek Carr that much.
Dude, I love Mascara Boy. I'm a big Mascara Boy fan.
my dude's going to emo band stuff late at night. I don't really get it. He's a weird guy.
Yeah. All right. So zero RB or zero wide receiver through your first 6 rounds. Where would you rather be?
Dude, I love wide receivers. Like running backs are just so like they come and go, right? Like I have an Amir Abdullah jersey that's downstairs. I'm like, I'm never gonna wear that again because like they come and go so quickly. Wide receivers are the sauce. Like they stick around for a while, so I'm always gonna end up being bigger wide receiver fans. So I am completely content with just like how much fun my team is gonna be if I take 6 straight wide receivers, and then I just find some like dime in the dust, Josh Jacobs, etc. later in the draft. So I would much so rather do zero running back, get those top receivers all stacked up in there. Hell, like if I can even do like a Thielen and Justin Jefferson stack, because like I feel like Kirk Cousins is going to really air it out this year, I'd be really happy. And then I'll figure out the running backs later. I'll get the fifth guy on the Patriots that is going to end up being the starter by week 15. So
I think this year there might be 4 teams in every league trying to go zero running back.
yeah,
Like there's going to be people that are just overhyped on receivers and going crazy for them.
yeah,
I'd rather go zero wide receivers. I can find a Brandon Cooks. I can find an Amon Ra later on. Right. Like you can find a guy that out of nowhere is 1,000-yard receiver. It's pretty hard. Like after week 2, that running back waiver wire is so dry that you're kind of stuck with the guys you got.
yeah. I've just had a few leagues where I've done like more of like running back heavy drafts, and then it's like you got the Russell Gages of the world just sitting there at the very top of your like waiver wire because they're like the best player, but they're only getting like those 8 or 9 points, like something that's just like not substantial enough for you. And then as soon as you
Yeah.
pick up the Russell Gage, that's the week that he ends up getting 0 points for you. So that's the most
I know that
miserable position to be in.
it's not sexy, but you will get to the playoffs. That's I mean I don't know. It's you'll grind your way to the playoffs with a heavy running back roster.
If I'm going to be in this
But,
for 18 weeks, I got to have some fun out of it too.
okay. All right. Is Aaron Rodgers going to three-peat or is Tom Brady going to be MVP at 45?
It's tough because like Brady, every single time he throws a pass, he's breaking history. He was insane last year, way better than I had expectations for. I think I'm still going Aaron Rodgers, just like a little bit more youth going on. I think that the narrative's definitely on his side too. It's just like how bad the wide receiver core is. So if he's able to elevate them without Adams, they're going to be like, dang, this guy, he's able to do it alone. He's a one-man band. So I think Aaron Rodgers is a little bit more likely.
When he showed up to camp rocking the Nicolas Cage wife beater look, I was like, "Damn, this guy's almost a lock for a three-peat." I think the Vegas line on him moved up because it was just unreal how good he was looking.
Hide your bombs. He's going to steal one.
All right, most likely last place team to win their division.
This is so easy. Like the candidates are the Jets, the Ravens, the Jags, the Broncos, the Giants, the Lions, Panthers, and Seahawks. I think the 2 main ones that everyone's probably going to talk about with this list is the Broncos and the Ravens. Broncos are still in a super heavy division. I think the Ravens, with that 4th place schedule that they're going to get, they're going to have a lot of opportunities to jump over the Bengals with the Super Bowl hangover, no more Big Ben with the Steelers, and then the Browns with the Deshaun Watson stuff. I think 100% the Ravens could go from 4th to 1st. Super.
Yeah, I don't think even registered to me that the Ravens were a last place team, but the amount of injuries they had, I think that's the easiest pick possible.
No one thinks about it because they were 4th place at 8 and 9, so it's like they weren't even a bad team.
Well, it's so much Lamar Jackson propaganda gets slammed down your throat that you just assumed they were the first overall seed.
Yeah, people be saying running back stuff all the time. God.
All right, so most likely first place team to end up in last place this year.
This one's way harder. So the candidates are the Rams, the Bucks, the Packers, Packers, the Cowboys, the Chiefs, the Titans, the Bengals, the Bills. I think it's the Bengals. It's for the same reasons I just mentioned. Super Bowl hangover is very, very likely. If you look at teams where they finish right, so like they're the Super Bowl winner, and then you have like Super Bowl runner up. The Super Bowl runner up has a very hard time getting back. Like it was really tough for like the Rams to get back. It almost looked like their window shut after that evisceration on defense by your Patriots. So
That's right.
I think it's going to be the Bengals out of those teams. I say the runner up for that category would be the Bucks, just because they're so old and have some injury.
See, the one that I think is intriguing, I don't think it's the case like the Cowboys though, because the NFC East is always the most just random division ever. That it's like just from pure chance they might have the best chance of being the last place NFC East team.
Yeah, that's true, and it's so easy to pick the NFC East team because you get freaking like 1,000 games for prime time, and it's like, God, I just want to turn this TV off. I mean,
Well,
all
that
these
one
teams just
truly
bad.
feels like that feels like a true 25% chance. Like every other team, you're like, these teams all seem fine. Like the Titans aren't going to be worse than the Jaguars. The Bills aren't going to be worse than the Jets, right? The Bengals have a tough division, but the Browns might be just absolutely abysmal if they don't have a quarterback this year.
Mhm.
Packers aren't going to lose to the Lions. Sorry, bud.
I wish.
The Bucks have Marcus Mariota leading the dream against some of the Falcons, like they're not losing, and then the Rams. I think they honestly that could be a team where it takes one crazy injury and it could just swing the other way for them.
That's so true.
But offensive rookie of the year, who you taking?
This is a very much so vibe pick. It's also very much so. So I'm a Nebraska Cornhuskers fan. I watched Chris Olave just destroy our defenses year after year, season after season. I think it's going to be Chris Olave. I think Jameis Winston's going to be able to go off. He's looking really smooth in training camp so far. He's definitely giving me some like Jamar Chase vibes. So there's nothing scientific. Like we could never really nail down this category unless you get like a guy who's just going into a really good running back situation. But I think Olave is the pick.
Okay, better season, famous Jameis or Marcus Mariota?
We got to eat that W. I think it's Jameis.
That's right.
I love Mariota. I love Mariota coming out of college. I loved him at Oregon. I think he's a really cool, nice guy, just based off like media reports and stuff. But like that Falcons team is going to be so bad. They have Arthur Brown as their head coach. I don't know if anybody knows this. Like, I think it's kind of common knowledge, but like Arthur Brown kind of only has his job from nepotism because his dad's the founder of FedEx in Memphis. And so it's like
Yeah.
the dude could do whatever he wanted. He could take over for FedEx if he wanted to. He's just like, you know what, Dad, I want to be a head coach. So like, I don't think he's that good of a coach. I don't think they have good weapons outside of Pitts. I think it's gonna be a long year in Atlanta, so I think it's Jameis.
Sleeping on Drake London. Hate to see it.
So,
So who are you taking at number one if you can't take JT?
oh, it's Najee.
We know, yeah, we know who
We
you're
don't need to
picking.
talk
Okay,
about this.
we can just move
Move
on. All right.
on.
Better year, Aaron Rodgers or Devontae Adams?
I went with Adams. I really thought about this for a while because I'm not a huge Aaron Rodgers fan. He's definitely destroyed the Lions in prime time in heart wrenching fashion multiple times. But I still respect him as a player. Like he's a very amazing player. And he's like one of the top, 2 or 3 quarterbacks of all time. Devontae Adams, though, like his age isn't like too much of a factor yet. Yes, you have some other weapons that are going to be there, Darren Waller, etc. But I think Adams still has a lot left in the tank, and I think he is a truly dominant receiver. I mean, like just like look at his Madden rating, like 99 every single freaking year. So I think he's gonna have an easier time transitioning to the Las Vegas. God, that's so weird to say. Las Vegas offense than Rodgers is gonna get with Lazards and the like the Randall Cobbs of the world.
Yeah.
Like I don't think there's any shot that ends up going Super Bowl.
Devontae's going to get targets. Aaron might be handing that ball off 40 times a game. So we'll see what happens.
It's gonna be ugly those first few weeks. Like he's gonna have to tell everyone to relax again. Like it's gonna be a little rough.
They're going to sneak in at like a 4 seed and then just blow up the playoffs or something. It's just like going to happen.
That's the way I see it. Are we ready?
All right, last segment for us here. This is the hot take factory. So
hot take cannon.
We got layup. That's right, layup, free throw, 3-pointer, half court. Increasingly more hot of a take, and of course, we got to mix in as many sports as possible because at some point football is done and we have to talk about other things. So we're already integrating basketball into our take canon here.
I love this
except it's all football focused potentially.
I love this segment. Like everybody's seen those things whenever you're like at halftime, you have a random fan trying to do a layup, free throw, 3 and a half court. Like this is the best thing that we could do. So hit me with your layup real quick.
Yeah, Josh Allen QB1. I hate it, right? I despise the Bills. I don't like Josh Allen. I just don't like anything about that team, exclusively because I'm a Patriots fan. I loved watching Tom own the Bills for in what 20 years. I mean, that it was just incredible drinking Bills fans' tears. Unfortunately, I think the Patriots are going to have to eat shit here for the next 10, 15 years while Josh Allen absolutely just destroys the league because he is just that good.
Non-controversial, yeah. Unless he gets COVID or
I know.
something. So we'll see.
Unless he gets COVID, Josh Allen QB1. All right, so then a free throw here, a little bit easier, but Eckler is like your safest running back for round one pick, right? You missed out. You didn't win the random lottery to get the number one overall pick. You don't know who to take it to. Someone else takes CMC, so you're not feeling scared anymore. Someone else takes Cooper Cup. So like, all right, cool. I'm not going to be the first wide receiver guy. And then Austin Eckler's just staring at you, ready to give you a nice hug because he's going to produce for you. So that's like the safest pick you can take. Shooting a 3-pointer, I'm taking Joe Burrow off the board, quarterback number 3.
Wow.
Right, he doesn't have the rushing upside as much, but the dude can run. He will run. Thoughts and prayers with that burst appendix, but this guy he just has every weapon at his disposal. Like he can just walk on the field and throw for 500 yards. Like he's the kind of guy that says why run when I can throw the ball
Joe,
and let Jamar run for me.
Joe Shiesty.
So yeah, do that. And then my half quarter here, kind of playing off of our takes there, but Lions win their division, man. You got
Love it.
MCDC out there chewing kneecaps. You've got this revamped offense with some actually talented receivers out there. This the take here is basically the Packers just finally relinquish that top spot. The Bears are just absolute garbage. I would never pick them to even win a game. There's just like nothing about that Bears team is exciting, right? And then the Vikings are just a just complete mystery. This could be that 9-win team that wins their division. Why not? That's the half court take.
Dude, I love it. I love the pandering. You definitely want me to come back for a second episode. I get it. But yeah, like I'm all in.
Exactly.
Like let's put a bet down on it. I bet the odds are like plus 3,000 or something insane. So let's make it happen. Okay, my picks. So I got layup. I think JT is that guy 100%. I think he's a really cool guy. He's a smart guy. He had like 2 degrees when he's at Wisconsin doing like astrophysics and something, whereas a lot of athletes are doing like communications majors, like easy stuff. Like he's an impressive person, an impressive human being, and I just always have that cream rises to the top kind of thing. Free throw, I have Devonte Smith will be mid. I've had this take for a while. It didn't really quite pan out last year because he actually ended up being pretty above average, especially for a rookie wide receiver. But I think like the way that offense is structured, and you have AJ Brown coming in, Jalen Hurts is more of a rusher. I think Jalen Hurts is gonna be a really good fantasy quarterback, but like I just don't think that second wide receiver is gonna be set up for success. And so I think he's gonna be disappointing his ADP this year a lot.
I might talk about Jalen Hurts for 20 minutes whenever we do our quarterback episode because no one gets my blood boiling like Jalen
Dude,
Hurts.
I
So
can't
I'll
wait.
just keep going.
Dude, I can't wait. Let's do it. My 3-point shot, I got have a super flex in your league. Like some people are really, really confused and scared of having a super flex in your league. It's so much fun. There's so much quarterback talent in the league at a given year. Like, why are we having Ryan Tannehill sitting on the waiver wire? Why are we having Derek Carr not on teams? Kirk Cousins,
Yeah,
like these are
unless you're in a 20-person league, I'm all for this one
yeah.
because I'm just always of the mindset. Just let's get as many points as possible. Let's like every person that's rosterable. Let's find a way to sneak them into a lineup. Why not?
Yeah, I haven't quite ventured into like let's have punters and stuff on our teams, but like if you have a guy who's getting like 4,700 yards in a season, like he should be on a roster. And I think it's really dumb whenever there's like quality players that are just sitting out there on the waiver wire. It really frustrates me because like I'd like to have them on my team. I'd like to do it, matchup dependence wise, and it does definitely play a bit more of a premium on quarterback. But like that's the way it's supposed to be, right? Like quarterback's the most important position in football. Like Tom Brady has shown us that for the last 20 plus years. So I think that's really important that we put out that super flex propaganda. So that's my 3-point shot. And then my half court shot, I'm all in on Trey Lance. So I went to Missouri State University for my undergrad, so I got to see him play at North Dakota State, which a lot of people haven't because it's North Dakota State. Like who the hell lives in North Dakota? He was incredibly impressive in college. He had like I think it was his red shirts freshman season, so like his second year basically. He had like 27 touchdowns combined, 0 interceptions. Like that is insane level of efficiency that like no one else has really hit. And it wasn't like he was just throwing really safe dinky dunk kind of passes. Like obviously North Dakota State is a very big powerhouse within the FCS. Trey Lance was definitely the best player on the field at all times, and I think this is the year they take the training wheels off. They say Jimmy G, we're confident enough to tell you to literally like kick rocks and go find a trade, and the talent around him is good enough. I think Trey Lance will be. I want to put a number on this because I want like accountability and stuff. I think he'll be a top 5 fantasy quarterback this year, which doesn't
Okay.
sound like super hot, but like when you start going through the names, like there's a pretty like inset in stone top 13 kind of guys. Trey Lance, I think he'll just completely wreck all those
Well,
names.
yeah, I mean, saying top five, right? Like you move Josh Allen, okay, Lamar, Kyler, and Patrick Mahomes as your top four. Like, yeah, it's basically saying he's the next dude.
Yeah,
And of course, when you put Jameis Winston in there, it's like there's no room. Like, how are you gonna bump these people around?
yeah.
So
I basically just said Joe
I
Burrow
think
is not going to be a top 5 fantasy quarterback, which is like,
that's
yeah, a lot of people would be like throwing pitchforks and stuff at me for that take. So I think it is pretty spicy. I think it's half court worthy. Maybe it's a little too timid for some folks, but I'm a big fan of Trey Lance, and I think he's going to go off this year.
you're great. So what do you say? We call it there?
Yeah, I don't. Do we have anything else to talk
Perfect.
about? I think we had a great week. Fun first episode.
It's very fun. Yeah. So, hey, we appreciate again all 10 of you listening. Well, we love it. As Max said earlier, hello, mom. So, we're excited to continue this. We hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any comments or anything that you enjoyed about the podcast, please let us know. Any points of, hey, it could be better if you did X or Y. We'd love to hear it. We're in it for the long haul. So, we're really excited to hopefully we can help you guys just be better at fantasy football, and hopefully we can help ourselves be better at fantasy football by just talking through some of our thoughts.
100%. Yeah, hit us with your questions too if you have some like lineup issues throughout the year. If you have great sponsorship connections, we would love for this to be a paid thing one day. We're doing it for the love of the game right now, but like that NIL money needs to start coming in. So, really fun. I love doing this. We should keep it going. So, I'm really excited to see where we end up taking this.
That's great. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next